If you're new to our channel, we'd love to have you join our little community. Just hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. We promise it will be worth your while.
My name is Ron, and I am a crossdresser. By the time I was 15 years old, I had been crossdressing for about half my life. My mom and I would spend a lot of time together as mother and daughter on weekends and such. There was never any problem with me dressing as Carol, the name I used when dressed, as long as I did it in private or far away from home, so as not to be recognized. My mother and I even played games when out together, such as one of us picking out a boy and pretend that he was my boyfriend. Until the Christine Jorgensen story hit the public, I thought I was the only boy who liked dressing as a girl. I also knew it was a big no-no. I knew this by reading it online. The newly invented internet lit up like a Christmas tree with new sites about alternate sex coming out of the woodwork. I was having a few doubts about my sexuality and wondered if I might be gay. But that is not the word we used in those days. Gay meant a whole different thing. I never seriously thought about going out with a boy, but the games Mother and I played got me to thinking, if given the opportunity, would I go out with a guy? One fine day just before summer vacation, my mother and I were on one of our mother and daughter outings. She brought up just that subject. She asked me if I would go on a date with a guy if I could. I gave that a lot of thought and answered, I think I would if the situation was right. Let's get to the point. Mom told me that a friend of a friend's son was going to his senior prom. This would make him 18, and at the last minute his date had an emergency, a death in the family, and had to cancel. Mom asked if I would like to go in her stead. Now this would be a golden opportunity. The prom was far enough away from home that I would not run into anyone I knew, and the fact that he already had a girlfriend would lower the chances of him hitting on me too strongly. The prom was the next Saturday night. This was Sunday. By Monday, I agreed. The rest of the week, I picked out what I would wear for the 2 days I would be away. I had the gown, so that would be no problem. All I had to get together was whatever else I needed. By Friday evening, I was all packed. I had that night painted my toenails and glued on extensions to my fingernails and polished them. And with the help of my mother, attached my special mastectomy pads with the special glue. Oh yeah, I also filled my head with a bunch of curlers just for effect, and I loved sleeping in them. I really did not need rollers because I was going to wear one of my wigs for the prom. Well, it was Saturday morning, and I was all packed and dressed for the long trip that I'd been waiting for since my mother set me up with a blind date. And all our things were packed in the car. We double-checked to make sure everything was packed and stowed. I was wearing my white dress with the low-cut neck, but not too low-cut. Girls still had a bit of modesty back then. It was a bit snug, so I wore padding to show that I had an ass and hips. The skirt came to about halfway between my hips and knees, maybe a bit closer to my knees than hips, and had 4 tiers of ruffles. I wore a scarf over my rollers because that is what a girl would do when she had a head full of curlers. We used Google Earth to show us the quickest and easiest way to get where we were going. Google Earth must make these decisions driving at 2 in the morning with no traffic because they said it would take an hour and a half, but it took closer to 2 hours. We were met in the driveway by who I assumed to be Mrs. Roberts and her hunk of a son, Brett. Introductions were made and our stuff was brought into the house and put away. We were at the kitchen table having a drink when Brett asked if I wanted to go meet some of his friends who were also going to the prom. I agreed. This was going to be a weekend of firsts for me. A date with a boy, a prom, and being with people other than my mom as Carol. But first I had to change my dress. I changed into one of my favorite outfits, a poodle skirt and polo shirt top. The skirt was light blue and had the necessary 2 crinolines under it, white bobby socks, and saddle shoes. Brett drove the 3 blocks to the neighborhood malt shop where we met his 2 friends and their girlfriends. I thought I would freak out being with so many people for the first time, but I was not. I seemed to fit right in. Amy and Beth were dressed in the same outfit, as were I and just about every other girl there, poodle skirts and tops. I don't know how long it was before Beth and I realized that we were sitting alone in the booth. The guys had left to look under the hood of one of the cars in the parking lot. Beth took out her cell and texted her boyfriend to tell him that if he and the others didn't get their asses back inside by the count of 2, they better start looking for other dates for the prom, because at the count of 3, we, Amy, Beth, and I, would start looking for other dates ourselves, and there were about a dozen guys within 10 feet of this. It worked. Our guys were there almost instantly. I was amazed at the Power Girls head over guys. Wow! 5 o'clock found us back at the house starting to get ready for my very first encounter as a real girl mingling with real people who would hopefully be accepting me as a girl. Need I say how very nervous I was? I took a nice long bubble bath. Mother helped me into a waist cincher after I stepped into my silk panties. Next came a pair of nude pantyhose, something new on the fashion scene. Some of the girls still preferred hose and a garter belt, but I went for the pantyhose. All this time, my gown was hanging on a hanger from my closet door. It was off-white with a low-cut square neckline and long lace sleeves. It was originally strapless, but my mother didn't think a girl my age should be going strapless, so she had material in the form of spaghetti straps sewn on. The top was snugged to my waist, where it widened out to a full skirt. The skirt was several layers of chiffon, which came to just below my knees. There was a thin belt at my waist. Finally, my shoes, silver. They had about 3-inch heels with open toes and a strap for around my ankles. So beautiful. It seemed like it took forever to get all ready, what with makeup and getting my wig styled. We used a bit of theatrical glue to keep it from sliding around. I think Mom did an exceptional job on my makeup, but this was an exceptional event. Brett was waiting for me in the living room. Mom reached for the doorknob. Once I walked through the doorway, there was no going back, the point of no return. I took a deep breath and stepped through. Brett was in his tux, with his mother standing next to him. I must have passed muster because no one laughed. As a matter of fact, they were both smiling broadly. Mom gently pushed me up to Brett, who handed me a wrist corsage. I knew what was going to happen next. I had been waiting for it for as long as I can remember, and I was finally going to be kissed by a guy. I took the corsage from the box and placed it on my wrist. Then it came, he bent over and kissed me. Wow. It finally happened and the wait was worth it. My very first kiss, I felt a warm glow start in the middle of my stomach and seemed to spread all over until my entire body was warm and tingly. And then came the picture taking and more kissing. Mom gave Brett my wrap so he could drape it over my shoulders. When we finally left for the prom, he held my hand as was walked to his car, the good one, not the one we used for the drive this afternoon. He opened the door and helped me slide in the front seat, and we were on our way. The dance was in the beautifully decorated school gymnasium. There were the usual crepe paper streamers and balloons. There were a few tables against a wall which contained food and drinks, and tables and chairs against the other walls. The dance floor took up the entire center of the room. Naturally, the bandstand was in one corner. The dance was in progress when we entered. There were several groups of kids standing around and the others were dancing. Brett put his arm around my waist and led me to where his friends from earlier that afternoon were standing. After a few minutes of telling each other how pretty each other's gowns were, we found a table where we girls put our purses and wraps and hit the dance floor. Naturally, my first dance was with my boyfriend. Brett, my boyfriend, is the way I thought about Brett. I danced several dances with other guys, but asked my boyfriend if it was good with him. I can't begin to tell how really great it felt to be in the arms of a guy and being guided around the dance floor, my skirt being swished out with every turn and spin. All night long, I thanked Christine Jorgensen for her bravery in doing what she did. I think she opened a door for people like me. It was last dance time, and usually the slowest one. From here on, things could have gone several ways. Only one that was possible and logical. Most of the kids were headed either for the local submarine race watchers site, a motel, or, as was the only logical event in my case, home. We did park for a while in front of the house to say goodbye. I did have to remind Brett that he had a girlfriend to stop him from going too far and finding out something that he would not have liked. We did kiss one last time outside my bedroom door. Mom was waiting for me inside our room, Mom's and mine. She asked me all about the prom. As I related everything to her, she did something that I wished Brett would have done. While holding me in her arms, she reached behind me and unzipped my gown and helped me undress. When she unhooked my waist cincher, my waist was all puckered and pruned from the cincher. A few minutes of massage took care of that. My nightgown was on my bed. I picked it up and got into it. It was a brand new gown and robe set, bought just for tonight. I knew fully well that my boyfriend would never see me in it, or would he? Excited as I was. Sleep came easy for me that night, cuddled in my mother's arms. Mom, Mrs. Roberts, and I were eating breakfast in our nightgowns and were halfway finished before my lazy-ass boyfriend came down. Oh my God, as he sat down at the table next to me, he bent over and kidded me, asking how I was. Some more talk about last night while we all finished eating. Mom and I had planned on leaving for home about noon. So right after breakfast, we went to our room to dress and pack. I dressed in the dress I brought just for the drive home, a sort of plaid shirt waist with long sleeves with button cuffs and a shirt collar with a ribbon bow at the neck. My skirt came to my knees, where about 2 inches of lace peeking from the hem of my dress. I would be wearing a dark navy blue velour blazer. Mom started packing when my boyfriend, Brett, knocked on the door and asked if I wanted to go to the teen shop to say goodbye to my girlfriends. Mom said I could go while she finished packing. Of course I went, if only to spend the last few more minutes with my boyfriend. I liked how that sounded, my boyfriend. We took Brett's car. I was a bit surprised when we walked to the store. I don't know why I was, but I was. I saw Amy and Beth sitting together and they were both wearing jeans and t-shirts. Why a girl would wear pants instead of a dress or skirt was beyond me, but whatever floats your boat. We talked about the prom for a while until Mom called to tell me that she would be there in a few minutes to pick me up. Amy, Beth, and exchanged screen names and phone numbers. Then I spent the rest of the time with Brett saying our last goodbyes. Mom showed up and we were on our way. At home, the first thing I did was unpack and grab a snack. I sat at my computer to enter Amy and Beth's screen names on my chat room. And guess what? They were already there. I must have talked to them dozens of times and never even knew it. Now I had someone to talk to on a personal basis.